The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass that housed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Inside the main hall, representatives from 40 different species sat in their designated seats, watching as the humans entered through the southern gate. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked with steady steps across the polished floor. His dark suit was simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the alien diplomats around him. Behind him walked Captain Ji-won, her military uniform crisp and clean, her hand resting naturally near her sidearm. They had traveled 3 weeks to reach this place, leaving Earth with hope that finally, after 3 years of war, peace might be possible. The war with the Thalian Dominion had been brutal. Hundreds of thousands had died on both sides. Human colony worlds had burned. Thalian fleets had been shattered. But Earth had sent Hyunwoo here with orders to find a peaceful solution, to stop the killing, to show the galaxy that humanity wanted to be part of the civilized universe. High Arbiter Quinn sat at the center of the chamber, his ancient body wrapped in flowing silver fabric. His species had ruled the council for 3,000 years, and his eyes held the weight of centuries. Next to him sat Councillor Vrex of the Thalian Dominion, his scaled face twisted in what might have been a smile or a sneer. It was hard to tell with his kind. Hyunwoo stopped at the speaker's platform and bowed respectfully. Honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity thanks you for agreeing to mediate this conflict. We come in peace, seeking an end to the bloodshed between our people and the Thalian Dominion. Quinn gestured with one long finger. Present your terms, human. Hyunwoo activated a holographic display. Numbers and star charts appeared in the air above the platform. Earth proposes an immediate ceasefire along current battle lines. Both sides will withdraw military forces to a distance of 5 light years from the border. All prisoners will be exchanged. Both nations will recognize each other's sovereignty over currently held territories. Trade routes will be established under neutral oversight. No reparations will be demanded by either side. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Councillor Vrex began to laugh. It was a harsh, grating sound that echoed off the curved walls. Other council members joined in, their various forms of amusement filling the room with strange noises. This is your proposal? Vrex said, his voice dripping with contempt. You actually believe you can negotiate as equals? Hyunwoo remained perfectly still. His face showed nothing. We believe these terms are fair and reasonable for both parties. Fair? Another councillor spoke up, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell. You primitives stumbled into space barely 2 centuries ago. You have no right to demand anything from a civilization as ancient as the Thalian Dominion. Quinn raised his hand, calling for quiet. The human proposal is noted. However, the Council has reviewed this conflict carefully. We have determined that humanity bears significant responsibility for the escalation of hostilities. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. Therefore, Quinn continued, the Council's mediated settlement is as follows. Humanity will surrender 40% of its colony worlds to Thalian administration. Earth will pay reparations totaling 5 trillion galactic credits over the next 50 years. All human military vessels will be limited to defensive operations within the Sol system for a period of 20 years. Humanity will accept a permanent Thalian embassy on Earth with full diplomatic immunity and oversight capabilities. Captain Ji-won took a step forward, her hand moving toward her weapon. Hyunwoo raised one finger slightly and she stopped. Her face had gone pale with rage, but she held her position. These terms are unacceptable, Hyunwoo said quietly. Vrex leaned forward in his seat. Unacceptable? You should be grateful we're allowing your species to continue existing at all. Your victories in this war have been nothing but luck. You fight like animals with no honor, no tradition. You use tactics that violate every civilized principle of warfare. We fight to protect our people, Hyunwoo replied. You fight like cowards, Vrex spat, hiding behind asteroid fields, using missiles instead of meeting us in honorable ship-to-ship combat, targeting our supply lines instead of facing our fleets directly. You are not warriors, you are pests. Other councillors nodded in agreement. One spoke up, a creature with multiple heads. The Thalian Dominion has existed for 12,000 years. They have won 100 wars. What have humans accomplished? You have no art, no culture, no history worth mentioning. You are children playing at being adults. Hyunwoo looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of each council member who would look at him. Most turned away. They had already made their decision before he ever arrived. This entire meeting was just theater, a show to demonstrate the Council's power over younger species. He pulled out a small data pad and began typing notes. The Council members watched him with confusion and growing irritation. For 2 hours they continued to speak, listing humanity's faults, explaining why the harsh terms were actually generous, discussing how primitive Earth's technology was compared to the established civilizations. Hyunwoo listened to all of it. He took notes. He asked clarifying questions. He requested that certain statements be repeated for accuracy. He acted like a student taking a lecture from professors, showing no emotion, no anger, no fear. Finally, Quinn grew impatient. "Do you accept the Council's terms, human?" Hyunwoo saved his notes to the datapad and tucked it back into his jacket pocket. He looked up at the High Arbiter with calm, clear eyes. "No. Then you will face the full might of the Thalian Dominion without Council protection," Quinn warned. "We understand." Hyunwoo turned to Captain Ji-won. "Recall all diplomatic personnel from Council space immediately. Inform Earth that negotiations have concluded." Ji-won saluted sharply. "Yes, Ambassador." Hyunwoo looked back at the Council one last time. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Humanity respectfully withdraws from these negotiations. We will not return." He turned and walked toward the exit. Ji-won fell in step beside him, her hand now openly on her weapon. Behind them, laughter erupted in the chamber. Counselor Vrex's voice rose above the rest. "Run back to your little planet, human. Come crawling back when you're ready to accept reality." The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the corridor outside, human diplomatic staff waited nervously. They had heard everything through the audio feed. "Sir?" one of them asked. "What do we do now?" Hyunwoo's face remained expressionless as they walked toward the docking bay where their ship waited. "Now we show them what humanity really is." Captain Ji-won smiled for the first time since entering the station. It was not a pleasant smile. Finally. Within 6 hours, every human diplomat, trader, and civilian had evacuated Council space. The last ship to leave was the ambassador's vessel. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed heading back toward Earth, Hyunwoo sat in his cabin and composed a single message. It was addressed to Admiral Dae-hyun at Mars Command. It contained only 4 words. Remove all restraints immediately. The message would reach Earth in 5 days. The galaxy would never be the same again. Mars Command sat beneath the red surface of humanity's first colony world, a vast network of tunnels and chambers that housed the military heart of Earth's defense forces. In the main war room, Admiral Dae-hyun stood before a holographic display showing every human ship, station, and colony in known space. His gray hair was cut military short, and his uniform bore the scars of 3 decades of service. Around the large metal table sat the most powerful military leaders in human space. General Minho commanded special operations, his face weathered from years of covert missions. Dr. Sora, the youngest person in the room at 35, ran weapons development with a mind that frightened even her colleagues. Captain Ji-won had just arrived from the Council station still wearing her dress uniform. "They insulted us," Ji-won said, her voice shaking with controlled rage. "They called us primitives, cowards, animals. They offered terms that would have destroyed everything we've built." Dae-hyun nodded slowly. Ambassador Hyunwoo's report was very detailed. He recorded everything. He activated the audio file and the Council chamber's voices filled the war room. For 20 minutes, the military leaders listened to Counselor Vrex's mocking words, to the laughter, to the dismissal of humanity's achievements. When it ended, the room sat in silence. General Minho spoke first. 3 years. We've been fighting for 3 years with our hands tied behind our backs. The restrictions were necessary, Dae-hyun said. We wanted to show we could fight a civilized war. We avoided civilian targets. We limited weapon yields. We tried to win with minimal casualties on both sides. We wanted to prove we belonged among the galactic powers. And they spat in our faces, Ji-won said. Dae-hyun walked to the display and touched several controls. New information appeared. Data that made everyone in the room lean forward. These are our actual military capabilities. The weapons we haven't used. The tactics we've kept in reserve. The technology we've been hiding. Dr. Sora stood and joined him at the display. During the war, we've been operating under Protocol 7. Defensive operations only. No preemptive strikes. No attacks on infrastructure. No use of advanced AI targeting. No deployment of experimental weapons. She smiled, and it was a cold expression. I have 43 weapon systems that have never left the testing range. Show them, Daehyun ordered. The holographic display changed, showing schematics of devices that seemed impossible. Quantum disruptors that could tear apart a ship's hull at the molecular level, stellar torpedoes that burned with the heat of a small sun, swarms of AI-controlled drones that could think and adapt faster than any organic mind, kinetic impactors that struck with the force of meteors, viral code weapons that could take control of enemy systems in seconds. General Minho whistled low. We've been sitting on all of this? We've been sitting on more, Daehyun said. He pulled up another file, this one marked with the highest security clearance. Project Phantom. Faster than light communication. Instant coordination across light years. Every human ship can act as part of a single unified fleet. The Thalians have been beating us with numbers, Ji-won said, understanding dawning on her face. But with instant communication, numbers stop mattering, Minho finished. We can coordinate attacks with perfect precision. We can react to their movements before their own ships know what's happening. Daehyun nodded. Ambassador Hyunwoo has confirmed that peace is not possible. The Council will not help us. They see us as inferior. They will support the Thalians until we're crushed or surrender. He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. So we remove the restraints. We show them what humanity is really capable of. Dr. Sora's fingers flew across her datapad. I can have the first weapon systems deployed to the fleet within 48 hours. Do it, Daehyun ordered. General Minho, I want your operatives activated immediately. Minho grinned. We've had sleeper agents in Thalian space for 2 years. Business owners, dock workers, maintenance crews. They've been gathering intelligence and waiting for orders. The orders are simple, Daehyun said. Sabotage everything. Supply depots, communication relays, shipyards. I want the Thalian military blind and starving. What about the civilian populations? Ji-won asked carefully. Daehyun's face hardened. We're not like them. We don't target civilians, but their military infrastructure, their government buildings, their fleet bases, those are all legitimate targets now. Total war, but we fight it clean. No atrocities. No war crimes. We prove we're better than they are even as we destroy them. Over the next 5 days, human space transformed. Ships that had been patrolling defensively suddenly moved with new purpose. Weapons that had been stored in secret facilities were loaded onto carriers and rushed to the front lines. Soldiers who had been trained for years in tactics they'd never used were finally given permission to fight the way they'd been taught. The first target was a Thalian fleet staging area in the Zirian system. 50 Thalian warships sat in orbit around a supply station, preparing for a massive assault on a human colony world. Intelligence suggested they would attack within the week, overwhelming the defenders with superior numbers. Captain Ji-won commanded the response fleet from aboard the Dauntless, Earth's most advanced warship. She had only 35 ships under her command, but they were equipped with the new weapons and connected through Project Phantom's communication network. All ships, execute jump, she ordered. The human fleet appeared at the edge of the Zirian system in perfect formation. The Thalian sensors detected them immediately, and alarms began screaming across 50 enemy vessels. The Thalian commander, a veteran of 30 battles, laughed when he saw the numbers. 35 ships against 50? The humans have gone insane. All vessels attack formation. We'll crush them in minutes. But the Thalians didn't know about Project Phantom. They didn't know that every human ship was linked through faster-than-light communication. Their targeting computers synchronized, their movements coordinated with computer precision. Ji-won's voice was calm. All weapons free, engage. The battle lasted 12 minutes. The human ships moved like a school of fish, each vessel knowing exactly where every other ship would be at every moment. When the Thalians fired, the humans weren't there anymore. When the humans fired, every shot hit a critical target. Quantum disruptors tore through shields as if they didn't exist. Stellar torpedoes turned Thalian warships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. AI drone swarms swarmed over enemy vessels, cutting them apart piece by piece. The Thalian formation, once so confident, fell apart in chaos and terror. The enemy commander tried to retreat, tried to call for help, tried to understand what was happening. But the humans had already deployed their viral code weapons, and his communication systems were compromised. His final transmission before the Dauntless put a kinetic impactor through his bridge was a single scream. What are they? When the battle ended, 50 Thalian warships were destroyed. The human fleet had suffered minor damage to 3 vessels and 0 casualties. Captain Jiwan broadcast her report back to Mars Command. Zarian system secured. Enemy fleet eliminated. Awaiting new orders. Admiral Daehyun received the report and allowed himself a small smile. He pulled up a star chart showing Thalian space. There were hundreds of targets marked in red, each one a military installation, a fleet base, a strategic choke point. All fleets, begin Operation Reckoning. He transmitted. We have 90 days to end this war. Show them what we've been holding back. Show them what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. Across human space, 200 warships began moving toward Thalian territory. They carried weapons the galaxy had never seen before, commanded by officers who had been waiting 3 years to fight without restraints. The Thalian Dominion had ruled for 12,000 years. They had won 100 wars. They had crushed dozens of younger species. They had 90 days left. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called 3 weeks after the humans walked out of the peace negotiations. High Arbiter Quinn sat in his central seat, his ancient face showing concern for the first time in decades. Around him, the council chamber was filled with the sounds of worried voices and nervous movement. Councillor Vrex stood at the speaker's platform, and his usual arrogance had been replaced by something close to panic. His scaled hands shook as he activated the holographic display. 23 systems, he said, his voice breaking. In 3 weeks, the humans have conquered 23 Thalian systems. The display showed a map of Thalian space. Large sections that had been marked in green 3 weeks ago were now colored red. Red for human occupation. Red for Thalian defeat. Red for the impossible speed of humanity's advance. How? Asked Councillor Malara, a calm voice representing the Corvin Collective. The Thalian Dominion has one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. How have the humans achieved this? Vrex pulled up a battle recording. The council watched in silence as a Thalian fleet of 40 ships faced off against 20 human vessels. They watched as the battle that should have lasted hours ended in less than 15 minutes. They watched as human weapons tore through Thalian shields and armor like paper. They watched as the Thalian fleet was systematically destroyed with almost surgical precision. This was the Battle of Corinth Station, Vrex said quietly. We lost 40 ships. The humans lost none, not damaged. None. They achieved complete victory without taking a single casualty. Another counselor spoke up, a being made of crystalline structures. Perhaps the Thalian military has grown weak. Vrex's head snapped around, fury in his eyes. Weak? We have been fighting for 3 years. For 3 years we thought we were winning. We destroyed human ships, we conquered human colonies, we celebrated our victories. He played another recording. This was 6 months ago. A battle in the Terminus sector, we won. We destroyed 15 human ships and lost only 8 of our own. The council watched the recording. The battle was brutal, ships exploding, weapons firing in all directions, chaos and destruction everywhere. It looked like typical space warfare. Now watch this, Vrex said, playing the recording from Corinth Station again. See the difference? Councillor Malara leaned forward, her multiple eyes focusing on the details. The human ships move differently. They're coordinated. They never hit each other with friendly fire. They position themselves perfectly for every shot. They're using networked systems, another counselor said. Instant communication across their entire fleet. Faster than light communication? Quinn asked, his voice sharp. That's impossible. The physics don't allow it. The physics we know don't allow it, Malara corrected. Apparently humanity knows different physics. Vrex played more recordings. Battle after battle, each one showing the same pattern. Human fleets, usually outnumbered, destroying Thalian forces with minimal losses. They're not fighting like they did before. They're using different weapons, different tactics, different technology. It's like we're fighting a completely different species. Because you are, said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Intelligence Officer Tai Yang, a human who had been living in council space for 5 years, supposedly as a cultural attaché. He had been allowed to stay even after the humans withdrew from negotiations because he claimed to be studying alien civilizations. Explain yourself. Human, Quinn demanded. Taeyang walked slowly to the center of the chamber. He was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. For 3 years, humanity fought under Protocol 7, defensive operations only. limited weapons deployment, restricted rules of engagement. We were trying to fight a civilized war. Why would you handicap yourselves? Malara asked. Because we hoped the Council would see us as civilized, Taeyang said simply. We wanted to prove we could belong in galactic society. We wanted to show we were better than our violent history suggested. He looked around the chamber. Then you called us primitives. You laughed at us. You demanded we surrender and pay tribute for defending ourselves. So you decided to show your true nature, Vrek said bitterly. Savages pretending to be civilized. No, Taeyang replied. We decided to stop pretending you were civilized. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Quinn raised his hand, calling for silence. You admit that humanity was holding back its military capabilities during the entire war? Yes, why? Taeyang pulled out a datapad and projected information into the air. The council members gasped as they saw the list of weapons, technologies, and capabilities that humanity possessed. We have had these systems for years. We never deployed them. We fought with one hand tied behind our backs because we wanted peace, not conquest. And now? Quinn asked. Now you've shown us that the galaxy doesn't respect peace. It respects power. Taeyang's voice was cold. So we're giving you power. Malara studied the information carefully. These weapons violate 17 galactic treaties. The quantum disruptors, the AI swarms, the viral code weapons, all of these are banned under council law. Humanity never signed those treaties, Taeyang pointed out. We weren't part of the council. We weren't consulted about the laws. Why would we follow rules we never agreed to? This is madness, Vrek said. The council must intervene. You must send forces to stop the humans before they destroy us completely. Quinn sat back in his seat, thinking. The council had not intervened in a war between member species in over a century. The last time they had, it had cost millions of lives and damaged the council's reputation. But if they did nothing, the Thalian Dominion would fall and that would shake the entire galactic order. The council will vote, Quinn announced. Should we send a peacekeeping force to contain humanity? The vote was swift. 38 in favor, 2 against. Only Malara and one other councillor voted against intervention. Assemble the fleet, Quinn ordered. 500 ships, the largest force the council has deployed in a century. We will show humanity that there are consequences for violating galactic peace. Taeyang smiled slightly. I'll inform my government of your decision. You will do no such thing, Vrek snarled. You're under arrest as an enemy agent. Actually, Malara said, he has diplomatic immunity. He's still registered as a cultural attaché. That's a technicality. Law is built on technicalities, Counselor, Malara replied calmly. Taeyang bowed respectfully to the council and walked out of the chamber. Nobody tried to stop him. As soon as he was in his private quarters, he activated his encrypted communicator and sent a message to Mars Command. Council is sending 500 ships. They're calling it a peacekeeping force. The response came back in seconds. Understood. Let them come. Meanwhile, in Thalian space, something unexpected was happening. The Thalian capital world, Thales Prime, sent a secret transmission directly to Earth. The message bypassed all official channels and arrived at Ambassador Hyunwoo's desk, marked with the highest priority. To the human government, the message read, We surrender. Please stop the attacks. We will accept any terms. We will give you anything you ask for. Just please make it stop. Hyunwoo read the message 3 times. Then he forwarded it to Admiral Daehyun with a single question. Your recommendation? Daehyun's response was immediate. Rejected. They had their chance for peace. They chose mockery instead. Let them face the consequences of their choices. Hyunwoo composed his reply to the Thalian government. It was brief. Humanity offered you peace 3 weeks ago. You laughed at us. You called us primitives and cowards. You declared that we were lucky to still exist. Now you discover what unlucky truly means. Surrender will be accepted only when your military capacity is completely destroyed. Until then, we will continue operations. The Thalian Emperor received the message and wept. Back in the council chamber, the peacekeeping fleet was being assembled. 500 ships from 20 different species, the most powerful military force in known space. They would meet at staging point Gamma and then proceed to human territory. High Arbiter Quinn watched the preparations with a heavy heart. Something about this felt wrong. The humans had walked away from negotiations too easily. They had seemed too calm, and now, despite facing an overwhelming council force, their only response was silence. Counselor Malara, Quinn said privately after the session ended, You voted against intervention, why? Malara's multiple eyes blinked slowly. Because we're making the same mistake the Thalians made. We're assuming the humans are weaker than they are. We're assuming they'll back down when faced with superior force. 500 ships, Counselor. The humans have perhaps 200 in their entire fleet. The Thalians thought numbers mattered too, Malara said quietly. They were wrong. I fear we're about to learn the same lesson. The Council fleet assembled at the border of human space like a wall of steel and energy. 500 warships representing the combined military might of the Galactic Council hung in formation, their weapons powered and ready. It was the largest military force assembled in over a century, and it gleamed with confidence. Fleet Commander Xylo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Infinite Justice, and surveyed his forces with satisfaction. His species, the Venar, had commanded Council fleets for 300 years. He had fought in 12 campaigns and won them all. The humans, with their brief 2 centuries in space, would learn to respect their betters. Send the message, he ordered. The transmission went out on all frequencies, broadcasting into human space. This is Fleet Commander Xylos of the Galactic Council Peacekeeping Force. Humanity has violated galactic peace through unprovoked aggression against the Thalian Dominion. By order of the Council, all human military forces are to stand down immediately. Failure to comply will result in the use of force to restore order. The response came within minutes, a single human voice, calm and professional. This is Admiral Daehyun of Earth's combined fleet. The war between humanity and the Thalian Dominion is a bilateral conflict. The Council has no authority to intervene. You are ordered to withdraw from human space immediately. Xylos laughed. The sound echoed across his bridge and his officers joined in. They think they can order us? With what force? Their entire fleet? His tactical officer brought up a display. Sir, sensors detect 80 human ships approaching our position. 80? Xylos shook his head in disbelief. They're sending 80 ships against 500? This isn't a battle, it's suicide. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a tight formation. At its head was the dauntless Captain Jiwon's flagship. Next to it flew the Valkyrie, Admiral Daehyun's command ship. Behind them, 78 other vessels arranged themselves in a pattern that looked almost ceremonial. Xylos opened a channel directly to the human admiral. Admiral Daehyun, surely you can see the futility of this situation. 500 ships against 80. I'm offering you one final chance. Surrender now and your crews will be treated with respect. Commander Xylos, Daehyun's voice came back and it was utterly calm. You have 10 minutes to leave human space. This is your only warning. You're insane, Xylos said. I'm trying to save your lives. 9 minutes, 50 seconds. Xylos cut the channel and turned to his tactical officer. They want to die. Let's accommodate them. All ships attack formation. Target their command vessels first. Try to disable rather than destroy. I want prisoners to parade before the Council. The Council fleet began to move, 500 ships spreading out to engulf the human formation. It was a classic overwhelming maneuver, designed to attack from all directions simultaneously. It had been used successfully in dozens of battles over the centuries. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Jiwon watched the enemy fleet move into position. Next to her, Specialist Yoonji sat at the tactical station, her fingers flying across her console. All ships reporting ready, Captain. Project Phantom is active. We have real-time coordination across the entire fleet. How long until they're in position? Jiwon asked. 30 seconds. Good. Let them think they're winning. Jiwon opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, remember your training. Trust the system. Trust each other. And show them why you don't threaten humanity. The Council fleet opened fire first. Thousands of weapons unleashed their fury across the void of space. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic projectiles, all converging on the human formation. But the human ships weren't there anymore. In the fraction of a second between the Council fleet firing and the weapons reaching their targets, every human ship activated its phantom drive. They didn't move far, just a few thousand kilometers, but it was enough. The Council's opening salvo hit empty space. What? Xylos stared at his displays in confusion. Where did they go? Sensors show them here, sir, his tactical officer said, pointing to new positions on the map. They moved during our firing sequence, and that's impossible. They'd need faster-than-light communication to coordinate that precisely. Sir, they're returning fire. The human counterattack was nothing like anything the Council had seen before. Every human ship fired simultaneously. Their targeting coordinated through Project Phantom's networked systems. 80 ships acting as one, their weapon systems synchronized to the microsecond. Quantum disruptors tore through the Council fleet's center formation, destroying 12 ships in the first volley. AI drone swarms launched from the human vessels. Millions of tiny machines that moved with frightening intelligence. They swarmed over Council ships, cutting through hulls, disabling weapons, targeting engines. Stellar torpedoes burned through space, each one guided by AI systems that predicted their target's movements before the target itself knew where it would go. Kinetic impactors struck with the force of meteors, punching through shields and armor like they were made of paper. All ships, return fire, Xylos shouted. Concentrate on Sector 7. The Council fleet focused its weapons on a group of human ships. Thousands of shots converged on 10 vessels. The human ships activated their phantom drives again. They disappeared and reappeared behind the Council fleet, already firing. 20 more Council ships exploded in balls of fire and debris. They're teleporting, someone screamed on Xylos's bridge. Ships don't teleport, Xylos said, but his voice lacked conviction. Specialist Yunji on the Dauntless watched her displays with focused intensity. Project Phantom gave her a view of the entire battlefield. Every ship's position, every weapon's trajectory, every possible outcome calculated millions of times per second by the fleet's linked AI systems. Target cluster forming in Sector 3, she reported. 30 enemy ships concentrating fire. Redirect wings 2 and 5, Jiwan ordered. Hit them from above and below simultaneously. 20 human ships moved in perfect coordination, coming at the Council formation from 2 directions at once. The Council ships tried to respond, but they were used to fighting enemies who needed seconds to communicate between vessels. The humans moved as if they were one organism, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. The Council cluster broke apart under the assault. 15 ships destroyed, the rest scattering in panic. Admiral Daehyun watched from the Valkyrie, his face expressionless. He had fought in 3 wars before this, had seen countless battles, had lost friends and comrades to the darkness of space. He took no joy in this slaughter, but he felt no remorse either. The Council had chosen this. How long? He asked his executive officer. 40 minutes since engagement began, sir. Council fleet has lost 218 ships. We've lost none. They're starting to rout, Daehyun observed. Groups of Council ships were breaking formation, trying to flee. Let them go. We're here to send a message, not to commit genocide. Fleet Commander Xylos stood on the bridge of the Infinite Justice and watched his fleet die. 500 ships, the pride of the Council, the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had been so confident. They had thought the humans were primitives, lucky children who had stumbled into a few victories. They had been wrong. Sir, we've lost over 200 ships, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Casualties are estimated at over 50,000. The fleet is breaking apart. Order a retreat, Xylos said quietly. Sir, order a retreat, Xylos shouted. Get everyone out of here now. The Council fleet turned and ran. Ships activated their faster-than-light drives in panic. Some not even bothering to coordinate their escape vectors. They just fled, scattering in all directions, desperate to escape the human weapons. The human fleet held its position and watched them go. Captain Jiwan counted the fleeing vessels. 23 ships remaining from their original 500. Should we pursue? Negative, Daehyun replied. Let them report what happened here. Let the Council know what happens when you threaten humanity. Xylos made it back to Council space with 23 ships and the shattered remnants of his pride. His first transmission to High Arbiter Quinn was brief and haunting. They're not a species. They're a force of nature. Don't fight them. You'll lose. In Thalian space, the last major fleet of the Dominion received word of the Council's defeat. Their admiral, a veteran of 40 years, looked at his officers and saw the fear in their eyes. Send the surrender, he ordered. Unconditional. Total. Whatever they want. Across Thalian space, resistance collapsed. Without the Council's support, without hope of victory, the Thalian military simply gave up. Within 72 hours of the Council fleet's defeat, the Thalian Dominion officially surrendered to humanity. Admiral Daehyun stood in the war room on Mars and looked at the map of space. Human territory had tripled in size. The Thalian Dominion no longer existed. The Council fleet had been shattered, and it had taken less than 90 days. What now, sir? General Minho asked. Daehyun was quiet for a long moment. Now we see if they're smart enough to learn from this. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. 6 empty seats marked where species had withdrawn their membership, unwilling to remain in an organization that had just lost a war so completely. The remaining counselors sat in subdued silence, their usual pride and confidence replaced by fear and uncertainty. High Arbiter Quinn looked older somehow, as if the weight of the council's defeat had aged him centuries in just a few weeks. His silver robe seemed less magnificent now, more like a costume than a symbol of authority. He called the emergency session to order with a voice that lacked its former power. The council must address the human situation, he began. We sent 500 ships to restore order. 23 returned. The Thalian Dominion has surrendered unconditionally. 3 other species have requested human protection against their neighbors. The galactic order we have maintained for 3,000 years is collapsing. Counselor Malara stood to speak. She had been one of only 2 counselors who voted against intervention, and now her wisdom seemed prophetic. We made a fundamental error in judgment. We assumed humanity was weak because they chose restraint. We mistook their mercy for inability. They destroyed a council fleet, another counselor protested. They used weapons that violate our laws. They must be punished. With what forces? Malara asked quietly. Who will volunteer to face the humans in battle? After what happened to Commander Xylos, what species will risk their fleets? The chamber fell silent. Nobody wanted to answer that question. There is another matter, Quinn said, activating a holographic display. We have received formal requests from 3 species asking for human military protection. The Corvin Collective, the Delian Assembly, and the Primarch Union all fear invasion from their neighbors, now that they see the Council cannot protect them. And humanity's response? Someone asked. They have agreed, Quinn said. Human fleets are already deploying to those territories. They're calling it a defensive alliance. It's an empire, a counselor said bitterly. They're building an empire from the ruins of our authority. A message appeared on Quinn's private console. He read it and closed his eyes for a long moment. Ambassador Hyunwoo has sent a formal communication. Humanity is willing to return to negotiations. On their terms, the vote was taken quickly. Every counselor present voted to invite the humans back. There was no discussion, no debate. They all understood that they had no choice. 3 days later, Ambassador Hyunwoo entered the council chamber once again. But this time was different. Every counselor stood as he entered. Every head bowed respectfully. The being who had been laughed at and dismissed now walked across the floor in complete silence. Captain Jiwon walked beside him again, her hand still resting near her weapon. But now, every eye in the chamber watched her with fear rather than contempt. Hyunwoo stopped at the speaker's platform, the same place where he had been insulted weeks before. He looked around the chamber slowly, meeting each counselor's gaze. Some looked away. Others met his eyes and saw something there that made them uncomfortable. High Arbiter Quinn, Hyunwoo said formally. You wish to discuss terms. Yes, Ambassador. Quinn's voice was respectful, almost submissive. The Council wishes to apologize for its previous conduct. We failed to understand humanity's position. We failed to treat you with the respect you deserved. You called us primitives, Hyunwoo said quietly. You laughed at our proposals. You offered terms that would have destroyed everything we built. You sent a fleet to force us into submission. We were wrong, Quinn said simply. We underestimated you. We allowed arrogance to blind us to reality. Hyunwoo pulled out his datapad, the same one he had used to take notes during that first disastrous meeting. I have recorded here every insult, every dismissal, every laugh at humanity's expense. I have detailed records of every moment we were treated as inferiors. The chamber was deathly quiet. I could present these now, Hyunwoo continued. I could demand apologies from each counselor individually. I could force you to acknowledge every error, every failure, every moment of arrogance. He paused. But I won't. Quinn looked up in surprise. Humanity came here seeking peace once before, Hyunwoo said. We came hoping to join the galactic community as equals. We were rejected. Now we return not as supplicants but as the dominant military power in known space. We could demand anything. We could reshape the council to our whims. We could punish those who insulted us. He looked around the chamber again. But that's not who we are. Counselor Malara leaned forward, her multiple eyes focused intently on the human ambassador. Humanity seeks the following terms, Hyunwoo said. First, a permanent council seat with veto power over all military decisions. Second, recognition of human sovereignty over all former Thalian territory, to be administered as a protectorate until stable local governments can be established. Third, the right to maintain defensive alliances with any willing species. Fourth, a formal treaty recognizing humanity's right to use any defensive technology we develop, without restriction. Those terms are acceptable, Quinn said immediately. I wasn't finished, Hyunwoo said. Fifth, the Council will establish an independent review board to investigate its decision-making process during this crisis. Sixth, all species will be given equal voice in Council proceedings regardless of their age or power. And seventh, the Council will never again threaten humanity or our allies. Quinn stood slowly. The Council accepts all terms without negotiation. Just like that? Hyunwoo asked. No debate? No discussion? You could demand far more, Quinn said. You could dissolve the Council entirely. You could establish humanity as supreme rulers of the galaxy. These terms are more than fair. They are generous. Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him since he first returned to the chamber. Why did we hold back? What? Quinn asked, confused. During the war. Why did we fight with restraints? Why did we limit our weapons, our tactics, our full capabilities? Hyunwoo looked directly at the High Arbiter. Can you answer that? Quinn thought carefully before speaking. Because you wanted to prove you were civilized. You wanted to show you could fight by our rules. Close, Hyunwoo said, but not quite right. We held back because we hoped you were better than us. The chamber was absolutely silent. Earth's history is soaked in blood, Hyunwoo continued. For thousands of years we fought each other over resources, territory, ideology, religion. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We know what we're capable of when we remove all restraints. We know what total war looks like because we've practiced it on ourselves. He paused, letting his words sink in. When we reached the stars, we looked at the Galactic Council and saw what we hoped to become. Ancient civilizations working together, maintaining peace for thousands of years. We saw order, wisdom, justice. We wanted to be part of that. We wanted to prove we had evolved beyond our violent past. Counselor Malera spoke up. You were testing us. Yes, Hyunwoo admitted. We restrained ourselves to see if you would respect restraint. We followed the rules of civilized warfare to see if those rules were honored. We offered fair peace terms to see if fairness mattered. And we failed your test, Quinn said quietly. Spectacularly, Hyunwoo agreed. You saw our mercy as weakness. You interpreted our restraint as inability. You assumed that because we were young, we must be primitive. And when we came to you seeking peace, you laughed in our faces. Captain Jiwon stepped forward slightly. You taught us a valuable lesson, High Arbiter. You taught us that the galaxy doesn't respect peace. It respects power. You taught us that mercy is seen as weakness unless backed by overwhelming force. You taught us that we can never let our guard down, because the moment we do, someone will try to take advantage. So you showed us your true nature, Malera said. No, Hyunwoo corrected. We showed you what happens when you force us to stop hiding it. Humanity is capable of great compassion and great violence. We prefer compassion. We want peace. We want to build and explore and discover. But if you threaten us, if you mock us, if you try to destroy what we've built, then we will remind you why we survived 10,000 years of warfare on our homeworld. He pulled up a holographic display showing casualty figures from the Council fleet battle. 477 ships destroyed. 53,000 Council personnel killed. And you want to know the worst part? We could have destroyed all 500 ships. We had the weapons, the positioning, the capability. We let 23 ships escape specifically so they could report what happened. We let you survive so you could learn. President Nari's voice suddenly came through the chamber's communication system. She was broadcasting from Earth, her image appearing on every display. High Arbiter Quinn, this is President Nari of the United Earth Government. I wanted to speak directly to the Council about humanity's future relationship with the galactic community. Please, Madam President, Quinn said respectfully. We don't want to be your enemies, Nari said. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to build an empire. What we want is respect. We want to be treated as equals. We want our restraint to be seen as strength, not weakness. Can you give us that? Quinn looked around the chamber at his fellow counselors. He saw fear in their eyes, yes, but also understanding. They had learned their lesson the hard way.